China's former security chief charged for corruption. Harmful chemical found in smoked salmon products prompts recall. And Iran president agrees to nuclear deal with world powers. Good evening. Joao, a former member of the Chinese Communist Party's Politburo Standing Committee, has been formally charged with bribery, abuse of power and leaking state secrets. He will be the highest-level official to stand trial on the mainland in more than 3 decades. Evelyn Leung tells us more.
After more than 8 months of investigation, the Supreme People's Procuratorate announced today it has completed the investigation into the corruption case involving Joao. The prosecutors have formally charged the country's former security chief with bribery, abuse of power, and intentional disclosure of state secrets. Joao is set to stand trial at the No. 1 Intermediate Court in Tianjin. However, no date has been set yet. According to the indictment, Joao served in a number of high-ranking positions, including Deputy General Manager of China National Petroleum Corporation, Party Secretary of Sichuan Province, Minister of Public Security, and State Councillor. He was also a member of the party's Political Bureau Standing Committee and Secretary of the Commission for Political and Legal Affairs of the party's Central Committee. The state prosecutors said Joao took advantage of his posts to offer interest to others while illegally accepting large amounts of money and properties. According to the indictment, Joao's abuse of power led to grave losses of public property and interests of the country and the people. This act was particularly serious, and the social impact was bad. Joao's intentional disclosure of state secrets was also particularly serious. A Hong Kong commentator offered his views about the so-called state secrets.
Well, up to this moment, we don't have any idea. But, we can focus on 2 areas. First, the top leaders has a series of plans to crack down the corruption and the so-called big tigers, including Bo Xilai. If Joao released the information to those people concerned, this is the state secret. Secondly, whether or not there are some information which is unfavorable to the senior leaders now, if this kind of information was released overseas through Hong Kong or through other channels, this will be very harmful to the senior leaders now.
Peking University law professor Zhang Qianfan said disclosing state secrets is a serious accusation and it could lead to the death penalty. However, he said that given the high-ranking positions that Joao held, there could be influential figures who still support him, and this may result in a lighter sentence for the disgraced former official. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
A food manufacturer under Da Chong Hong Holdings is recalling its smoked salmon products after Listeria bacteria was found in a sample taken from its plant. The Centre for Food Safety has urged the public not to consume the products. Liz Yun reports.
A sample of smoked salmon taken from the Yunlong plant of Polyfood Food Services Company was found to contain a small amount of Listeria monocytogenes. Last night, the Centre for Food Safety urged the public not to consume any smoked salmon product provided by Polyfood, regardless of the item's brand name, batch number, and packaging. Polyfood was also instructed to recall all its ready-to-eat salmon products. Earlier, a partial recall was already underway after the company's smoked salmon on sale in Macau was found to have been contaminated with Listeria bacteria. The government has ordered Polyfood to stop the relevant production line for cleansing and disinfection. Listeria monocytogenes is readily killed during cooking, but the bacteria can survive and multiply at refrigerator temperatures. The contaminated ready-to-eat salmon, if eaten uncooked, may lead to severe complications or even deaths in newborns, the elderly, or those with a weaker immune system. Listeria infection may also lead to miscarriage or infant death for pregnant women. Kwok Ka-ki, a member of the LegCo panel on food safety and environmental hygiene, has called on the government to step up its regular food tests to better safeguard public health.
The practice nowadays in the Food Safety Center is said to be once per year, which is grossly insufficient. We can never rely on this very infrequent check on the food. So we are asking them to check the food very frequent, like every 2 or 3 months, and in fact they should have some random check also.
Another member of the panel, Helena Wong, has criticized the Center for Food Safety for its slow reaction to the crisis. She said she was intrigued that the center only made a product recall announcement late last night, while the test results should have been out a lot earlier. Both Wong and Kwok said they will follow up on a matter in Leshko. Kwok also expressed concerns that imported food are not properly monitored. He said the government should implement more stringent standards in relation to labeling, processing and distribution of food here in Hong Kong to protect the public's health. Liz Yun, TVB News.
Asia Television's executive director Ip Kapo says the broadcaster may be able to continue operating for up to 3 or 4 months without any injection of new funds. ATV is allowed to remain on the air until April 1st, 2016, following the government's decision not to renew its license. Ip says he'll contact the shareholders and investors, but thinks it's unlikely they will inject more money into the company. So ATV will sell its assets to pay for its expenses.
Actually, for the last few months, our investor didn't inject any money to our company. We still have a lot of classic drama and a lot of non-drama program and news program. And there is still a lot of broadcasters or production company that they are interested to buy out all our archive. So I am sure that for the coming few months, that most of our archive can be sold out.
Overseas now, Iran and 6 world powers have reached a breakthrough preliminary agreement to curb Tehran's nuclear activities. The accord outlines a series of commitments by both sides as they work for a comprehensive deal aimed at ensuring Tehran will not make nuclear weapons in return for relief from sanctions. James Aiken reports.
After a week of grueling negotiations aimed at ending a 12-year nuclear standoff between Iran and the West, negotiators emerged to say they achieved a landmark preliminary accord on Iran's nuclear activities.
Today, we have reached a critical milestone in that quest. We, our P5+1 EU partners, and Iran have arrived at a consensus on the key parameters of an arrangement that, once implemented, will give the international community confidence that Iran's nuclear program is and will remain exclusively peaceful.
The surprisingly broad and detailed framework commits Tehran to significant cuts in its nuclear assets and activities. If implemented, it will cap Tehran's nuclear advance for years to come. But analysts caution that nothing's agreed until everything is agreed.
And you can bet that if you think the negotiations over this agreement were hard, when it actually gets time to having an agreed text that people are going to stand by for 10 or 15 or more years, the negotiations are going to be much harder.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he is vehemently opposed to the deal because it threatens the survival of Israel. But for U.S. President Barack Obama, who has staked enormous political capital on the nuclear negotiations, achieving a deal with Iran would be a crowning foreign policy achievement.
This framework would cut off every pathway that Iran could take to develop a nuclear weapon. So this deal is not based on trust. It's based on unprecedented verification.
On his return from the negotiations in Switzerland, Iran's foreign minister received a hero's welcome. The agreement means an end to years of crippling economic sanctions for the Islamic Republic, but only if negotiators transform the plan into a comprehensive pact by a June 30th deadline. James Aiken, TVB News.
Kenyan authorities say they've shot and killed 4 Islamist gunmen who stormed a university campus in the northeast of the country yesterday. The Al-Shabaab gunmen, strapped with explosives and carrying AK-47 rifles, attacked students at Garissa University College, killing 147 people. Alan Buckney reports.
The siege lasted 13 hours. The gunmen singled out non-Muslim students and gunned them down without mercy, according to witnesses. Others ran for their lives with bullets whistling through the air. Amid the massacre, the men took dozens of hostages in a dormitory as they battled troops and police. The 4 hostage takers were killed. About 80 people were wounded in the attack. This student describes how he heard gunfire at around 5 in the morning and was hit by a bullet as he was scrambling out of a window. Some of the severely injured were airlifted to the capital, Nairobi. Kenya's president said the government would take urgent steps to recruit 10,000 more police officers.
We as a country have suffered unnecessarily due to shortage of security personnel. Kenya badly needs additional officers, and I will not keep the nation waiting.
The Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab, which is based in neighboring Somalia, has been blamed for a series of attacks in Kenya, including the siege on a mall in Nairobi in 2013 that saw 67 people killed. The group has vowed to retaliate against Kenya for sending troops to Somalia in 2011 to fight the militants who were staging cross-border assaults. The town of Garissa, close to the Somali border, has been subject to several attacks. This teacher is not sure when they will go back to work.
Most of us are fearful and we don't know what the government would do unless we are convinced that the security would actually work and put things in place when we may go back. But we are afraid that when the situation continues, then some of us are likely maybe to go back to their places, because you cannot work to a place where there's no security at all.
Kenyan authorities have issued a dusk-to-dawn curfew in 4 regions close to the Somali border. It will be in effect until April 16th. Alan Buckney, TVB News.
In the UK, the main debate of Britain's national election has yielded no clear winner. In an unusual format, Prime Minister David Cameron faced off against 6 political rivals. His Conservatives and Ed Miliband's opposition Labour Party are poised to win the most seats, with neither garnering enough for a majority. The debate was deemed to be close as well, with 4 different opinion polls producing 4 different winners. The government earlier suspended its immigrant investor program. Sources say the Immigration Department will now be optimizing the policy to enhance innovation and technology development in Hong Kong. Rani Samtani has more.
During his policy address in January, Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying announced the suspension of the Capital Investment Entrance Scheme. The move demonstrated that the government believes Hong Kong is short of talent, not funding. It is understood that after conducting research, the administration has decided to optimize the existing business immigration policy. In the past, applicants had to fund their startup costs themselves. Under the new policy, if the applicant's business is innovation or technology related, it can go through various schemes run by Invest Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Corporation, Cyberport, the Innovation and Technology Commission, or